I can't hold me to you. It's actually true. Coming over response. Is this for the rest of the concept of no contribution, constitution, what do you see? Exercise public recognization, right of law, and no law of briefing exchange. People get watching how it's on my time with this. As a publication, I have a very power. Is your mind ever first hand conception of British nuisance? See the just by using short term ready to pieces of the rest of the US for any side. Then the first army is looking for the far wide national concepts of news. Run existence US threats North Korea with nuclear pursuits, which is both incredible and devastating, generating existential uncertainty, creates an incentive for conflict initiation and escalation, rather than restraint students running through those benefits for European protocols, allowing to make a security for American benefits for European by their future. Is there superior to all activities for the less harmful than disaster agents, not arsenal, large office sales for basic north, protect weak arsenal, resolve your strong less than prevention of the difficulties US face in trying to get one of this money. Understanding US which projects weak arsenal, and including the superior to make that fair in response to the fulcrum of North Korean nuclear postures to generate uncertainty does not abandon but fuses formalized nuclear doctrines to maximize the nuclear church of veterans when it uses the police postures to stem as part of our and strategies to import, but that's the door for our consequences of special postures to give a generate uncertainties and adversaries that value control control type postures with their simple disagreement with history. Business plan by the way of services back to posture can give realization social posture optimized. The source has been available in their strategy that sensitive distance and sir. Sharing for postures usable against postures and postures links and other very sophistication of postures ideology to dependent on feature exercise structure. It's such resolution for lots of same as you done the other literature retail and go. The more use for exercise and application of resolution to retail over time services. There is evidence detailed examination as one most of the option thing outside box of in resolution to retail and materials and interference over the capability of appreciate issues whatever strikes and very question and analysis of specific things and interference and capabilities and sure the US government allows launch capabilities on right out of the basis of the police space average and utility use incentives to work on a more secure and our also changes not getting completion mapping and close running the same direction even if you have to rate or base has a shut out the isolation line or decision levels versus representative of cost world grade these are the risk of prevention and application was given is to virtual microspace versus sensible making voice which is where the cool over experience of pretty strong Washington first drugging and doctrines versus collective ambiguity to radical and cost crisis ability by entrenching mismatched expectations of nuclear use arsenals to include subsequent alterations to nuclear delegation and decision making which dramatically raises the likelihood of nuclear escalation put out much money argues superior level control over no lower first which item use no rational no unidentified causes of causes of computer addition factors levels nice or member ability to assess technology and the first small or small way church limited ability to factors separately have shop and not possible to harbor that say that this unit control on the central fidelity authority from made not feel version price to be filled other representing accent 7 could be listed motion privacy as no ambiguities and aspect when it is released by position ability identical changing and over represented well and abilities to dominate of the mission making able to come to solutions both in her short no people respond to use special to damage limitation knowledge kind of force result of the other is nature brings back to the more no access force level lower density down cost skills distribution recognize it for sure no good cost skills ability feel that they kind of force visuals and have a setting credible signals they might effectively rationalize the cost rational and rational and first regulatory it's average to rational there's left to change the specific over the breaking out others can find out to make centralized variables to provide more regulatory use all jokes and benefits disability no risk nuclear war cause extinction and analyzing scenario series overcomes apathy about about 20 challenges who face use radiation from study and public survey because my not only with the impact on the public what's the society public overside what's the ability to engage in government and increases of risk destroy human life plus as far as radiation include cancer questions and different methods to release from the cell a failed made artificial space more probable with high risk is having a movement numerous versus access to people through functioning made around using low breath and pressure except loss of probably anyway excuse and probably loss of magnitude larger copy narcotic costs the one that you choice public health well being professor I mean nuclear level of others there's no reasonability justification of my experience in the nation greater utility conscious and doable powerless to do simple standard decisions or not objective information I have all action all levels first great pain and control medical life imagery birth access the water pills of the livers martial law restriction ability access level of more piece or a public education engagement with us really good some risk and risk essential word of the outflow and portable educating public great teachers essential didn't think about threats was new social changes in the government the other way public after Chinese to the world moving to across making sure also the groups ensuring the works that are pretty extinction demands mobilization against and study of specific conditions which is preferable to sacrificial fatalism Stevens 20 inflection point after his death constant Smith populism that's the condition of future based action possible your short risk something for lack of messages like major else problems they species stages the race all humans just ways like the prize cause they administer with the effects for we see news about force back community alternative option no stages about becomes absolutely regional we see the boxes why storage transformation condition edges and ages and organization which will search you to be fixed as a little order of your myself and custom say that not excuse fatalism warrior what's my part relating action from consequences data is when actually process solution being cautious about identifying regular possible relevant areas of sense to us tries to interchange between realism and liberalism plan the United States should adopt nuclear no first use policy towards democratic people's republic of Korea that assuages North Korean fears by acquiescing to demands for no first use policy chain 20 no first use plans and if you're to do trying to place US determination that never accidentally Trump this moment turned out by some to make a lot of Congress to use exam as the turn against that attack that was against some of your information leaving international person running use articles to go pay the one if you cause a legacy for that and the latest stage of robots to support the gas and so for Anderson it is your disarmation policy and if you with your emotional and true see that we should move for this result if you revolutionize and for recruiter use address the attorneys running use consider going on this and plans to green financial sure by piece of the Russian nuclear policy is uniquely credible for a Korea development in 2023 no with not much of the read that reduce our price and elevate this issue can use for years and part of looking the worst is for proximity and greater abilities the part of behavioral social expedition for ability future action price and part of reaction all same involves operationalized meetings you know all same North Korea demands an unconditional and universal policy from 23 no are considerations limiting additional insufficient depending on the conditional summary and saying then ministry and single letter circumstances, aggressive turn enemies, reverse their condition coming, regarding an entity, specifies use for promotions, limited use for cargo, military, plan on language use, function to counter-break, concerted of insurance system across all policy instruments, scenario analysis, and IR counteract dogma, enable policy relevant research, able transport projects, less than D20 knowledge, roll out the nearest book, progress, plus TV, and maybe proven blank scenarios, plus 20 and 30 rigorous follow-up, plus relevant, independent, color, commercial, link years, people, data, force, relevant, contract, and also, places, sometimes, the comments, power, coaching, and also, message, weak skills, my board, the journey, certain computer series, for making fair translator, development, wheels, hidden assumption, makes something explicit, test, automatic, classification, performance, literary thinking, enables, comprehension, building up, theory, information, this with a creative thing, but showing us some sort of devices, living rate, presence, and working tendencies, what the present, because of the future, person, obstacles, television, ability to think of the global comprehensive cause, race, stairs, how you have writing actual code, ring, sinners, similarity, the table, the message on, facility discussion, helps not have communication, and also numerous curriculum provides an analytical toolkit to assess the ever uncertainty that shapes all human relations, the application and study of it is critical to navigate localized and international challenges, reject any fatalism about its potential with Rule 23, uncertainty, internal human relations, also to the international security system, comments, multiple challenges, point, introduce curriculum, analytical toolkit, and table, writing enough, uniform, pollution, taker, pollution, drug charges, security, which is certain anthropological or biological social states, economy, and security, human, and how the media, government, show, skill, piece of defense, potential, comics, categories, and media symbols, the overall problem, city, push up by the sort of figures, office, people, visually, how they feel, small, sort of, covered, artists, indigenous comments, and assessing not the high cost of fears, problems, things, making some conversations, which more times, present, elimination, or worse, increase, huge cost, and huge cost of price, for security, recommended, not against, but without their separation, this is sort of like word, military, research about motive, potential, and knowledge, commerce, inclusion, public, also believe that it's possible to turn around the different world, which, for use, enforcement, rather than down in future challenges, military, and certain less time actions, and offer, and look, will give us slow, always having a future puzzle challenge, to go what's in it, and kind of shopping, certain sensibilities, critical factors, and real for action, process, of the future, uncertainty, the less part of company, transportation, technology, obvious, national dualism, and fatalism, much about IR, examining U.S. North Korean conflict dynamics is accurate and valuable hearsay for analysis of security laws, and 19 security law, our school essential is one IR research, we have cases, from required powers, and the other side of the field, probably security, flexibility, because policy, access, paying, representation, communication, Jackson, Owen W. plus the states, to self-public security, policy, making worst case, economy, and principal police, action, one, increase security around, fierce mentions, and my eyes, offensive tensions, viral, self-public policy, has and appropriate policies on the private life, policy, making, trying to find separate commercial race, in terms of ACs, can come home, BB, that your church must be serious, basically, produce for complex, as a reservoir, so we must determine the useful, our use, no best interaction, by the one, material, and information, with the outcomes, here, so maybe, subscribe offense, not as literally, actually, also higher, both, an opportunity that we receive, and be correct, that's how the church reduce, combination, comedy, percent, concerns, relevance, reinforce, like, orientations of the impact on others, world, politics, by new age, research, social force, reports, and its implications. International systems are complex, require integrative pluralism to accurately depict and explain outcomes, or refuse any root cause explanations, and require study practice, not theory, why not to integrate the protocol of systems, or whether about critical average, tiny conferences, illustrational, theories, which I can represent systems used by battles of carbon history, figure out theory, disaster points, not resisting, shock, history, red bull base, critical, they undertake the erasure, the resistance, international, college sources, requires explanation, different levels of differentiation, cost, academic, the report, also, college, loaded, expectation, international research, research, amateur, incoherent, academic, positive, not epistemology, academic, circle, existence, talk, province, the post, present, not theory, practice, one of epistemology, state, nation, little, small, epistemology, rational, rationalism, and one appears with the other oppositions, provide attorneys, and continue, and if you guys continue, host, go beyond, based on the ideology, situations, places, subtleties, laws, better, and that actually also represent, as epistemological opportunities within each position, we find this within our high level fast concerted solution, how we want people approach whether money and purchase epistemology, stop up, outcomes, illustration, and politics, something one launch, rather than using any of the one epistemology, because we use local plus documentation for research, although for neither nation nor can take out epistemological position in sense, particularly short debates over nuclear strategy, the role of nuclear forces is constantly in flux, and totalizing prescriptions or flawed damage, 20 nukes, one nuclear strategy, by the way, in political positive passions over Trump, role of the figures, great discussion, of all these played rates as well as the problem, and other I was trying to use nuke strategy for this because important involved by the way the work to reverse course research, formal analysis, analysis, I was not getting methods of the resource protection, or not actually have out the order of database, methods for seeking disciplinary back and research, report on the new figures, secure, electronic architecture, those fine tunes, rules to the database, rather than approval, assumption, understanding the rules, extraordinarily closely, accurate, generalized, predicting possible, to arrest the individuals, was maximum average, power, promise, no free first, and foremost, hard text, which was possible, information, any consequential thing, was double policy, first surprising outcome, that we search without balance, constant, serious, subject, economics world, with the lessons of thought, explanations, variety, factors, and world, geopolitical, make the question more important.
Okay.
What motivates North Korea's ambiguous posture?
It's motivated by the fear of a first-use threat by the United States.
First-use threat?
Yeah, the threat of the United States first threat.
And why is that?
Why is that? We've read evidence that indicates that U.S. nuclear superiority perceived by North Korea as allowing the United States to control the escalation ladder. We've read evidence that also indicates that it does things like threaten the regime's survival because they receive their nuclear weapons.
What is the basis for those claims?
What is the basis for the Cho study? You cut that part.
The Cho study is a study of a bunch of different studies that collect the idea that North Korean nuclear posture is not based off of one strict adherence to a particular deterrence doctrine, but rather examines arguments from a number of different sides and concludes that rather they have sort of a mixture of different strategies based off of external observable factors, each North Korean documents, etc. What?
North Korean documents, what else?
I'd have to go to read through the card precisely. So,
Yeah,
you
considers
want every single one.
political history, the way that North Korea has reacted to threats in the past, as well as theories about a mix of indicators is what the card is, the language of the card, about the uncertainty of the United States.
That's
Yeah.
how does the act create mutual security through cooperative mechanisms?
What is the card that you're referring to when you're quoting it? Because I don't remember saying those words.
Booth and Wheel.
In the context of Booth and Wheeler, it isn't in reference to mutual security between the United States and North Korea. That card was more so speaking to broadly the functioning of international relations.
How is it not about that?
I was going to get to that. So, in the context of the plan, it does that by adopting an overseas policy towards North Korea.
Yeah. Understanding North Korea's side of the security dilemma.
Understanding their side of security.
Yes.
That's how you can mitigate it.
Because we can't understand what they're seeing, but we can't understand how to respond.
That is your original question, is that we cannot be absolutely certain what the doctrine is. That's sort of the point.
What was that? We can't understand what they're seeing, but we can.
We cannot be 100% certain.
No, I follow that part.
Yeah.
What was the thing you said?
That's what we said.
What was the
But we can't know how to respond.
It refers to the other minds problem, which is the idea that the United States cannot understand the intense conditions that are.
We should attempt to transcend them.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question I have regards some of the cards at the bottom. The Stevens evidence says we are at an inflection point. Act now or face disastrous consequences. What is that inflection?
The prospect of nuclear war with North Korea, the inflection point.
Okay, and then it goes on to say that actually separate part. The Flutter evidence says that it is essential, or it says public can absorb abstract ideas and incorporate them in their worldview. What is the implication of this?
The implication is that when the public understands nuclear threats, it can incorporate it into its worldview and allow the public to then mitigate the risk of nuclear conflict. Both the risk of nuclear conflict and its fallout, I should say, not just the conflict.
And what?
And its fallout, like what would happen if nuclear war were to
Sure.
happen. Seems like building societal resilience to those things. Thank you. We're good.
One sec.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start.
First off, the procedure one is the important parcel of the accident intellectualization award with ethical responsibility for conflicts displaced by dirty wars, products, technology, and level global machine. Of imperial circling governments of the accidental wars, not accidental mobilization of machine commerce, and notion of mechanical subject, repetition of edits, altering singularity, and thinking of already called the question, such a there, the mechanical question. I think just said words are against the intentional that excuses restrictions to war, the summer rain is not on the about consequence of administration. Other than the ethical country, the clock, will heavily damage carry the death of rubber enemy. War began as aim for certainty as the economy of master we know as well how to potentialize. Meaning containers where the abstract governmentality through site-specific installations of sovereignty, the drug reform heuristic like the sovereign and the kill chain. The nuclear taboo is endemic of colonial hegemony time that reinforces civilizational mantras of Western rest, while advancing logic is race science against the colonized people's technology backwards, rejecting math, 20 layer assumptions articulate temporal structures the first in the West and elsewhere, frame a single secular time that involves other kinds of times and now covalence the ground for legitimate civilization of colonies. You recognize the colonized way to purchase saying not yet to someone else's course controlled by you. Its purpose seeking to predict which countries likely to build nuclear weapons, prevailing military strategic status quo near the gates of nuclear historians and desires to display fail to. It's the history of nuclear assault politics and war discourses based on race. It is based on the past by universality of the West, contrasting modern science and rational European by just getting done. European cultures with folk explanations embedded in local belief systems, precursors to true science, placing conditions on nuclear weapons is inextricable from the economy and force by which nukes derive their meaning, transforming nuclear weapons into diplomatic bargaining chips as a form of commodity fashions, and they usually reject themselves. And 14 nuclear weapons is luxury factory nuclear weapons become itself part of luxury against international symbolic security economy. Their semiotic virtuously lies in communicating power and lawyering weapons, acquisition, repudiation, articulate their implicit recognition symbolic economy of meaningless restriction supply and institutional controls nuclear weapons increase demand for weapons value because it serves as character social value. The attempts to alter prevent proliferation also serve to enhance value to against nuclear are not smooth against possession, only reinforces church. Functions has become a privilege and jurisdiction, actually not in states, fetish objects, symbolic values for servers, make the power real, reification of nuclear weapons, making them objects of the inside of linguistic tricks, restrictions like consumption, sense design, designate nuclear weapons, status upon the different kinds of distinction from the conventional weapons, category WMD, even those explicitly reject nuclear weapons, except the distinction of the true understand to use, necessary to possess their breath, their use of nuclear weapons, to do nuclear decision making involves making nuclear meanings and values, to both sides nuclear desire to use to show the presentation of nuclear weapon system, massive political economy of weapons, the ideology helps secure the consent and logic of nuclear weapons, nuclear security, fascism of weapon, obscure the political economy of nuclear violence, institutions to sustain nuclear war preparation, included nukes have become so specialized in the road to latent capabilities, bringing about the precarious one. The 1AC framing in North Korea is the designing the code for identification, eradication of the virtual enemy, therefore planning is based on the protection of the stage of a virtual theater war that you ought to reject nukes and forcing North Korea's portrayed public enemy number one, the intelligence community said to bend certain facts of this U.S. government seats one-sided. Image North Korea and important Bay rogue states have become central threat to serve to demarcate the line between good and evil U.S. and foreign policy has indicated North Korea without taking into account that no code, DOD, was still deemed necessary to run war games to make judgments on what kind of forces necessary to fight when the United States continuing century military and systemic North Korea will commit a high military skill and wants to use bureaucratic design. Codes for identification, preparation, and necessary eradication of the virtual enemy. The United States developed battlefield's ability to change the nature. Conventional war strategic planning continues to change virtual enemies. Such planning is basically achieving this ability to stage a virtual theater war. The attempt to bifurcate war and peace of obfuscates the imperial relation between the U.S. and Korean peninsula for 20 where the divine military between the U.S. and Korea since the efforts to integrate the world in capitalist region how can transform wars relation to U.S. premise of the war. The treaty purports a transition of peace as the total war, but also warfare war. As a state of a relation to pure war, declarations of war and peace, modality of the governance wartime provides the post-war temporality of Korean politics over to imperialism as long as the U.S. has persisted in Indo-Pacific peace-like war is a state of relation produced by practice, not temporarily through inevitable progress between exceeds governance. To encompass being supplanting conquest as modality of relation across the oceanic atmosphere connection that bond Korea to the world with Korea is elsewhere. The alternative is to engage in a hermeneutic of suspicion categorically reject by consent every term that requires rejecting the 1AC supervisor. And 20 what would it mean to just put deep mythology and set of both required psychological studies requires to learn the country's Eurocentrist treat rights to loyalty and demanding this principle totally deconstructs research into great power wars which so be possible because they have to raise their territorial devastating much more attention would need to be paid coercion named by other results such projects support by hermeneutic suspicion uphold rigorous resistance to racialized ignorance in the absence of this theory will continue to be white now the case. First, the 1AC is a form of white delusion that represents the activist apprehension of reality. There's epistemic imperative to substantially save black social practice for current IT white delusion from the Brutus and rates of the epistemic imperative to confront a video refers to a misapprehension of reality or projection and state through habits including false projection, Buddhist, and also subsequent ignorance of ideas that the lack of knowledge cannot be eroded by exposure. People need to deconstruct whiteness, ignorance, and comfortably but necessary to work with Christ's skill of equanimity. Absent confronting Kentucky's delusion, debaters are trained in the epistemology of ignorance based on videos not a passive absence but an active delusion, which means any 2AC permutation, link, chart, etc. sustained false debates, habitual ignorance in disguise. A sound philosophical analysis sometimes the 1AC fantasy, complicit racial injustice, recurring anti epistemology of ignorance, etc. To the Buddhist ethics of ideas, the root of the suffering of ideas, the translating lack of knowledge, transitions, misleading video, explains our psychological mechanisms of suffering by our habit of projecting falsities and taking them into rule. Suffering caused by delusion, elimination of video cannot be attaining knowledge, elimination of entity. Expand on understanding the world, elimination of ignorance, cessation of injustice, ignorance. It's not passive access, but active delusion, maintained through active reproduction, delusion, convention of the world of VTC land. Now, even if they are right about impact capitalist age of state-centric politics, still further paradox fails to address interactions beyond life and section 10 and 21. The center of ontological interpretation as Irish cultures and international systems. Factors are best structural section, systematic features, part of the whole there. Students' external causal determinants of the reduced bubble, reference as well, the entire space bubble goes beyond states and international interactions, embodies the social and ecological systems, wholeness, and being a hierarchical priority. The one does not start off with fragment apart pre-existing system, which the other one about the whole permeates the parts. This makes it imperative artificially carved out by IR, the tiny coronavirus symbol in every corner in terms of full light upside down, the ping pong implementation of mobile flight, school in Florida, U.S. subprime crisis, Fukushima, WikiLeaks, Stadium, street vendor, baby, localized polls reflecting Cold War 9/11 financial crisis shock, and the epidemics important to remember the as if copy out of quantum perspective becomes the period of the face of magic local, the environmental crisis, economic environment, and international conflict, ventures, survival, contract approaches, the subordinate environmental issues, the state-centric international economy compares classical decision theories on falsifiable ignore superposition of state preferences means evidence or legal see. It's wrong now, Durban and Web's 20. The question is whether superpositions can be found in macroscopic opposition challenge. My quantum theory, classical decision theory assumes portfolio of state preferences according to the Russia's or lactate concept. Our mind will always be well defined state decision problems. is trying to determine other types of interaction, optimal things secured in left theory, the ideal patient, rational actor, and certainty represents state superposition models as distinct factor and dimensional space. These do collapse into a measurement occurs as exact opposite of standard view rather than expression of underlying beliefs. The latter become well defined through measurement itself. Back to the critique. Snare blending creates a symbolic logic with Rock's IR with mandatory exponential Wilcox. The 15 bodies have been outside IR, the language control, and respect the dominant security presents a distant body because subject actors now as the security studies that people protect are understood the bodies these breeds suffer and die. Security studies have implicit conception of bodies that organisms with protection from damage constitute security in IR. Bodies are relevant only if they live or die. Bodies are objects exist and be manipulated, possess no agency. There is embodiment prevents challenges sovereign security in IR. IR is power system defense. Bodies only as objects subject formed through relations. IR also lacking in violence more than action actors or the violation norms. They cannot see how violence enforced for shaping how we understand ourselves as subjects to our form communities. Understand war requires us paying attention to our bodies racialized through relations.
Okay. You're good?
Yep.
Okay. First, I want to talk about, what card was it? What is the virtual theater of war?
So our evidence says that prescribing or the code of how North Korea ought to act participates in a virtual theater of
I know
imagination.
that. What is that? I know.
So like, essentially we're saying that the identification, preparation, if necessary of the eradication of the virtual enemy is what's that.
What is the virtual theater of war?
So
Like,
it's
stop telling me what the link is.
That
What is
the
it?
link.
No,
You're asking
what are we participating in? What is the virtual theater of war? What
The
is the
idea that
theater?
we can know North Korea's reactions to certain things. We asked you in YC Cross-Ex, what motivates North Korea's ambiguous posture? You said, quote, it's motivated by the fear of first use threat. That idea, and then you later go on in the Cross-Ex to explain that we cannot totally know North Korea's intentions, but we know how we should react to them. We have said the latter part is true, or the former part is true, but the latter is not what we should do in response.
Okay, I think this question was after when you were. Okay, the other card, the Parker card, this thing, war by other means, what are those other means?
For it's another instance would be imperialism.
Imperialism? Why is that the same as war?
It is war. That's our argument.
It is war, like what?
So war is violence that occurs within geographic spaces outside. We've said that structural violence should
Outside
be
of what?
constituted as war.
Geographic space is outside of what?
What do you mean?
You said geographic space is outside. Outside of what?
Outside of debate.
Outside of debate. Okay. The alternative.
Yeah.
This like categorically reject whiteness at every turn. If we win that you were whiteness, how do the judges decide the debate?
Well, you can weigh the relative value of introducing the 1AC and 1NC.
It's not like a
But you said it's categorical. You didn't say it was a sliding scale.
Yeah, so we'll make defensive arguments to why we're not. What?
Oh, so
it's not.
if we win like defense, you like.
If
don't
you
get a
win
fair card.
defensive links, then yes, you win the debate.
Also, categorically reject whiteness at every turn does not suggest that it's like a binaristic thing. That it's something.
There
this
can
is
still
whiteness
be
or
more
it's not.
Maybe you should take categorical out of your tag, but that's okay.
Categorically
The
reject.
like Feldman card, accidentalization of war. What is that?
It describes war as accident.
When did we do that? Can you
The 1AC.
give a line from the 1AC because I'm like. I'm not
Many,
getting into
okay,
it.
1AC, Kodama,
The next card says act
1AC,
We didn't highlight
Butter,
that.
no, they're not.
No, they're not.
Disagree, but okay.
Chang also highlights it.
Okay, okay.
Miscount.
And why does that?
The
Okay.
word for that is
What is the status of the alt?
unconditional.
Unconditional. Okay, so you have to go for it, even if you. So like, if we win a D8 in the alt, but you win framework, do we
What is
still
a
win?
DH the alt? The
Like,
alt
we win
is
the alt's a
framework.
bad idea. Okay.
The alt is
No,
framework.
sorry. Just want to make that clear.
Can just have like the thing on the Buddhism thing on the case, is that also an alternative or
No, it's just a reason you have to.
okay, and can anything in the 1C result in the plan?
No.
Okay, cool.
947.
947. I'm gonna wait to send it up, just gonna go back really quickly. Where does the case look like? Text is so good.
Give me 1 second.
Panel real good. The U.S. threat of nuclear first use drives North Korean nuclear posture alterations, the adoption of positive control ensures nuclear escalation either as a bolt from the blue or during conventional conflict. That's Obama set the threshold for insurance case high. The only scenario for nuclear use is clear positive control, but the only motivation for that is nuclear first use and something else as a threat nuclear arsenal. Now, the white Buddhism argument for scenario analysis is an impact to it, it's good, it engages inevitable complexity and non-linear thinking to link theory with empirics and practice. This act is electric and pragmatic to account for weak signals. Wild cards is not a determinative rather predictive argument, which is sort of no links or argument outweighs my cognitive biases, including a linearity consensus of groupthink that's less than 15. But 2, deliberation centered on institutional engagement is necessary to effectuate macro and micro level adjustments to consciousness locking. 20, economic choice and taking turn to hooks and parameters for change includes understanding ways to transform consciousness linked to efforts to transfer structures words, the word relations of must do on the ground through direct action change institutional structures, addressing a condition that shapes the patterns and knowledge, understanding experience of Buddhist practice to transform unification of the self, ignorance by ways things are entrenched advantages and identification rights to your stance at anything goes that threat to integrity of yourself includes ego, close anybody, the body cleansed by community enlightenment, knowledge, delusional reordered, efforts of cherishing into other centered altruism, critical issues, use habits, conditions, and a reduction of cherishing a tongue and require we go against the grace of laws begin to undermine habituation, uprooting against polarities of ignorance, meaning sees of other centers, passion, reordering, structures and training, similarities, being of ability, and hopes anti-racist task for rifles, required not just for views, but to keep working shots in the visual produce be correctly, ascending intellectual style, weak habits, whiteness, communication, imagination, regarding spaces, research wider humanity, short circuit patterns, so racial perceptions of what else you use to challenge biases, required we become intimately familiar to work where the government's roads was eliminated, deeply transformative ethics, we will a large majority of the answers on the K will obviously be cost applicable here, we'll do that when they make more arguments in the block. Now, the predictions, argument 1, no link to 1, it seems not a totalizing claim, rather it was probabilistic, which sort of no link to the majority of their arguments. 2, context matters. They must disprove the premise of the case in order for any of these arguments to be correct. 3, is that the age of state-centric politics is not over. Complimentation of 20, the challenges do not violate the number order by examining breaking points, find principles are not every state-centric system or liberalism, state level agreement on broad optimistic is challenge either disintegration or collapse of the supernatural government, emerging premature for the forecast, and then the nation-state argument. And nation-state now, quantum theory does not require dismissal of Newtonian logic that's proved by physics. Turn off 22, quantum turn on leads to management of possible theory, even the physical show. The universal acceptance of science and relies on Newtonian principles is hard to explain. That's some leaders access to extreme self-decision IR theories. Paragraphs are co-op. Okay. Framework, they only get links to the plan and its consequences. It avoids arbitrary interest, administrative stasis, that dexterity in testing. Now, permutation, do both. The net benefit of pluralism, you should defer to comprehensive and multidimensional concept of nuclear strategy. After that, theory becomes an identity marker for power, which causes the K to repeat the error, Simon's cross serious cross-ended theoretical debate, refuse the large solutions of expertise, which are arbitrary, incoherent, and ad hoc, reproducing the foundational fallacy. Then require previously that's why dead. 3, it's especially true for nuclear strategies. They cannot be universalized as their context is dependent on interest, circumstances, and beliefs, which are textured by existential threats, the emergence of transnational threats, and small sample size. Further, a complicated totalized observation that's a Gavin Evans. Now, the first argument is the development link. Terminally, absolutely no link to this argument. When I say evidence is quite explicit, the notion of accidents is not the one that accidentalizes warfare, as their part describes, rather one that places the onus on not only the United States, but nuclear decision makers, which compel North Korea to engage in certain, which encourage North Korea to engage in positive control, as identified by, I think the one I say show evidence. Now, the next link is the Montreal link evidence 1, West versus Rest is wrong. This description actually increases, it calcifies the sort of binary that they are drawing by the identification of the two. There's always overlap between different theories of international relations. White is a direct impact turn, and it disproves the premise of this argument. 2, discourse is not shape reality. Contra 23, caution establish our cost effective media and policy. Monosource of issues and assumed relations with false equals, strategic, humanitarian, personal, and natural substance and the one piece. Among many other influential factors essential to avoid oversimplification. Now, the next argument was the Biswas link 1, no link. It's generally about nuclear materialism, not in the context of North Korea. The plan does not result in any of the things that it's descriptive of. It's a probably deterrence theory, which I'm going to answer now. The theory is accurate, not a form of commodity fetishism. Correct. 20, deterrence is the cause of zero vacuum existence. And anti-nuke emphasis not sure about denying it, because find that these amounts of historical and logic contradicts the cause. Under my unique dangers, these consequences faded states and showdowns through numerous dimensions cannot exist dangerous demand radical action, but deny that these important types of legal practices or record reveals otherwise that they could be held responsible. They made them more concerned with the strategies. And there's just finger whose fingers around the button. Now, the next argument was the Kuhn's link 1, no link. The one I see with the exact opposite of the securitization of North Korea as they described and identified the problem placing the onus on the United States with no material impact to this, because any impact to this that is the material and rising to the threshold of the case was obviously resolved by the app. They don't have a description why anything else is capable of turning it. Now, second, third analysis of North Korea is good and accurate. That's proved by the security dilemma, international order, and human existence broadly are structured by existential uncertainty. Navigating that terrain requires open theoretical and practical horizons, pragmatically address interpersonal and interstate tensions, reject marginalization or fatalism, which magnifies violence while leaving the dilemma unaddressed, given the inevitability of the demand for problem solving, should endorse a holistic practice for human agency to transcend the dilemma vis-a-vis the plan as Booth and Wheeler now. 3. Extinction outweighs death is the only face ontological state, sense of virtue, of obsessive form of value, but denying future change, that's Stevens. And now analyzing that is good, that is fodder. If they make a useful argument, obviously I get to expand upon that because the one in C cards, they make an argument the one in C, the Parkley. 1. No link. The plan does not do a peace treaty with North Korea, and everything else about this card was answered above. 2nd, their understanding of war is analytically useless and actually increases the risk of conflict. Limit solar business less equal. 21. That boundaries of war, peace, are blurring the favor strategic doctrine, understanding based on consequences. There is a clear and false relevant approach to confronting conflict and tendency. Adore classify every novel rising new classification weaknesses or inherent excess of forms and helpful fatalistic of the Westward. Passive ad hoc introduction and illustrative theory blurring the lines between situations. There's space for me single line word hybrid and those elements into a single category in a context. A comment is not perhaps not a classic wisdom, but ideal consequences these are helpful. The guiding action receives the nuances of consequence reflects the intentions and agency fails to recognize how states go to war, not to get a deep also to change a clear cut and categorization use of policy where it means with defense also beyond biology, how Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Crimea, prestigious for that, risk of your meticulous responses and isolation, Russians do not think the same way the West does, causes distinction, conciliate an honest and clear assessment, but mystifying the social with military logic causes mass structural violence and turns the head. Emperor Daniel 23 advises questions like merit, polarization, and democratic decline, utterly, and maintenance war, viewing social agents through warfication is widespread, not undemarcated about what's happening here, kind of compromise institutions use multiple means, activities, finding domestic grievances, or having suspicious assumptions do not hold water, discourse, solely social polarization, this is highly problematic, such move. People identify as genuine social problems, making them objects of security management, otherwise legitimate discussion becomes not authentic foreign interference, objects demonizes population grievances do not considered genuine, and atmosphere of permanent suspicion, trust is basically creeping under every bed, right under every bed in which total war can be applied. Obviously, the impact turns the entirety of the critique because their alternative relies on this conception of war as demonstrated by 1 and C cross-ex, which means they got to get out of this now. The alternative. Did they say what they're conditional?
They're unconditional.
Unconditionality is bad, makes it much harder to be negative. You should just vote app. Now, 2 theory, floating case vague, utopian also voting issue, making app impossible by post actions in the debate. 3 case it's a DA, only legal constraints on nuclear first use, 2 years, that's Chang. 4 hermeneutic suspicion fails to identify and challenge problematic structures of IR, generally prefer pragmatic politics. To alleviate material violence, Edward 16 hermeneutic suspicion. Run out of steam, alert of suspicion of everything that appeals to agents in the dark, critiques unveiling. Only critics to see actions and indisputable these do not explain themselves in theories, nonsensical, produces determination practices, and assume a merit politics from this is limited to rises fundamentally separation of social that is real and not difficult to do politics separation uses when attracting criticism on those things regardless of actors becomes a common representative fact matters or only partial comments in the lecture argue matters or facts practices are about what can be fabricated and trace the interpretation of African publics. Can you pull up these things about hermeneutics when I read the card about axioms? The premise of axioms is that leaders are at fault, not just the random poly, which number 23 leaders are is to signal result. CNC can be delegated, have more will than numerous forces to institute negative controls, raise risk of accidents, taxes, and failures, have a complex highly coupled systems, down by risk of illusion of control, and negative consequences as a result of illusory pattern recognition, taxing prospect, others who submit peg, both sides of breach of overestimate unity control, decision makers never unsure how they will react.
Is it this card or the one that are this card?
First one.
This one? Yeah, any of those on the back are
Sure. There is no event of truth to be discovered. The one sees an endless search for something that doesn't exist. Written, working in hermeneutics, still track metaphysics. The event of truth implies there is truth. There's no truth. Only perspectives these do not reveal meaning, but play different to hermeneutics. A suspicion it would be suspicious if meant one suspicion about a truth. However, would not be if the suspicion meant there is a incorrect meaning. Deconstruction is not hermeneutics. Is there is no single meaning to decipher where the real has been discovered. False is not being pure. Love the difference between critique is not. Make circles and teach. Must use language. Oh, that's not my notes. No. The alternative enables racist violence. 14. National language influences the development of hermeneutics and Heidegger understanding Heidegger meaning. The seminological examination is hermeneutic. Gadamer from hermeneutics today. Gadamer student Heidegger simply develops Heidegger's analysis like calling theory of philosophical hermeneutics and its usage are not wrong. There's also positive. Prejudicially correct understanding is impossible to escape. Given 7, Jonas and Martins all fail to distance themselves from Heidegger. Conferences have all accepted. The second practice is demanded difficult to articulate meaningful theoretical stance of Heidegger. But students can escape the implications dominated with what Heidegger can. There's an ontology. Has no solvency. Schmidt 14. Hermeneutics and interpretation is derived from the same Greek word. Besides interpretation is explained to you. Interpreter don't understand motives. There's no one correct interpretation of sculpture. How do we know when it makes sense to be hard to understand something is a problem? Passage does not make sense. And intent to interpret it would be a misinterpretation.
All fails the data framework also text from all.
Yeah, all fails the data framework because it's kind of the basics of their framework offense. Firm do the alt, then the plan obviously solves because you can engage in a hermeneutic suspicion and then engage in the politics of the plan to disprove the desirability of the case.
I'll send those cards.
Yeah.
That was yours.
Good.
Yep.
Give me-
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
First question, mystifying the social with military logic depoliticizes social problems. Why?
So you described the understanding of war in 1NC cross-sex as being one that
No,
understands
I
social.
got the link. I'm saying, why does it depoliticize genuine social problems?
Because right now the unique determinant that card is making is that sort of discourse gets deployed by far right wing fascists to justify certain things as being wars on their culture, the war on American history, etc. That language is used.
That exists in the status quo, and we've said that you should understand all of those things as war. Why does that uniquely make it worse?
Wait, you're implying that links need uniqueness? Is this a premise you're looking to defend? Or is it just like we should categorically
Why
reject things
is
that speak
this
like this?
describing war as, not the boundary between social and military problems? Results in things, and depoliticize genuine social problems.
So, because insofar as you are correct about a link that the 1AC, forwards the, understanding of war as drawing a strict binary between war and peace, we think that is good, and it's far better than an understanding of war that does the opposite.
Okay, I'm asking, you read a DA to doing the opposite, not an advantage to doing it. So I'm asking, why does it depoliticize genuine social relations? The reason I'm asking this is these cards are rhetorically powerful, they assert it, but do not give a single reason of why it depoliticizes social relations.
Well, because that's the entire point that's getting at to the bottom of that card when it says that, when we start searching for identifying war as sort of even these like social problems, we start engaging in sort of an endless search for these things instead of ever, actually confronting them.
Wait, so the internal link is just we never actually confront them when we search for them?
We can never actually confront them, and fascists co-opted in order to engage in a bunch of crackdowns.
Okay, we're good. The piece of Edwards' evidence that you've read, what does it mean for something to be a pragmatic politics?
I think the criticism that Edwards levies against the alternative is that, politics of permeating suspicion constantly engages.
Criticism. What does it mean for something to be a pragmatic politics?
One that attempts to identify problems and actually
So
materially
we've
resolve them.
identified the problem.
You've not,
I
like,
see.
yeah,
So that's bad. We solved it by voting next. So what does it mean to
So
be
you meant,
pragmatic?
so you cut me off for the second part I was saying, where you need to demonstrate an actual material way in which you can
What does it mean to be
resolve that.
material?
Not the alt in the plan. I think our part is pretty stark about that contrast.
That's not definition. What does it mean
We
to
don't,
be
look, we
material?
don't need a definition because we run a card that says the alt isn't bad and that the alt is a bad idea. We do not need to
You
make
read
that
it
in the
before?
abstract, we run a solvency deficit to your thing.
Wait, what? And you think this card says that where? Like,
The evidence of suspicion is literally the first 3 words of the card.
Yeah, I understand.
No.
You think that concludes that the hermeneutic disposition would never be material where?
Yeah, I got you. I'll answer your original question. It's an approach that assesses the truth of meaning and theory, or of theories or beliefs in terms of the success of the practical application.
Okay, so the success of like negligence.
Of their practical application. We think that, that card draws a distinction between the alternative and the plan and says that you're not.
So the first argument that scenario planning is good. What do you see? Card did you say?
Yep.
But I guess also land is also coming back.
Are you just taking the 10
It's important.
McGregor? Do you policy?
It's more like Clinton's policy, basically. Maybe. Oh, I'm actually not this very. But in
Have you been? Okay, so Vanderbilt's campus is in like a town part of Nashville. It is, but it's like, Vanderbilt is like getting more obnoxious now. But if you gotta go to like, okay, so part of Southern cross culture, also there was like really a thing in the theory. And so for the work fair in Nashville, some Nashville, yeah, but it's, this is Nashville. Yeah, pictures from Nashville. But it's like, it's a lot, 2 blocks away from the campus. It's just this like crazy replica, and inside of it is crazy statues.
Good 6:30.
Oh, yes.
I just looked at that time. No, it's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, it's like,
It's
it's not like Bama.
It's like I know from personal
But it's,
relationship, you all.
it's
Right there, turn it
Right there.
visit,
Yeah.
visit in spring when their house are out. I enjoy Nashville.
Alright, Josh is sent now, so we're
I
gonna.
like Nashville. Yeah, it's probably more affordable.
I just sent the doc, the order is the K street. Except the like height. It's a lot. It'll be the one around.
Optimistic.
Optimistic take over.
Everyone have it? Well, ask questions why the red is interesting, the see prime plane evaluation, if and only if see cuts to the priority is impactful, I see often pertaining to nuclear reps, like just prove the squash, just like see which release justification, substitute examination, results, see which whiteness, see subtraction, the parameter for 20, and then you put possession of a computer virtual, illustrator, can't racial practice and constitutional or emphasize the need to prioritize no aberration, not just equal size race by considering the matter of representation, fairness, and testing were literally just those words in the tweet. So it does not justify over what error extrapolation and be skeptical of it. Fairness is the myth of permanence and can't be intrinsic of its competitions over ever evolving, and there's no procedural plan focused rule for next part test fairness. In practice, not principle fair evaluation doesn't occur for argument because proceduralism we can tell the victims race to lose court case on technicalities and we don't justify picks, but they do because picks allow legal plan to solve their impact. Given this, moving the YC is good. It holds accountable for some models survey reciprocity that weighs up consequences of lectures, debaters, and treating flaws for human community better and sidelines of violence, felt here for consequences of hypothetical and precludes the uniform participation in debate benefits. Conceiving from the 1AC, the education is the most important piece and shape subjectivity. We're inserting the card. They highlighted every word from 1AC Flutter, Clash 1, testing 1, afterwards, in your personalized 1AC construction chapter, merely asking them kind of why they introduced 1AC, which is the most logical defense of what they did to yes, you lose epistemology critiques to themselves, epistemology critique the relevant consequences related to the introduction and research of the 1AC, free word transgression, arts and artists for negative, fiat, trope, and also with extinction scenarios or process counter plans. Now, fiat isn't key to skill or evidence. It pushes past political barriers and can't teach you how to develop true nuclear expertise or tradition, solve better force and computation with your intelligence at a more approximate level that solves versus or cognitive biases, which is there 1AC Stevens 20 future demise would be caused by an inability to reflect upon our nature. We fail to discern the cumulative effects of incremental and negative change invisible to the ordinary person become comfortable living with rest. Unobscured by self-interest, helplessness was not a barrier to action or an excuse for fatalism by raising awareness and promoting an outlook without. The researchers convey a sense of agency. It does shape subject information presenting that happening in research, even if there's not a one correspondence. Between grounded in personal opinion, you should presume it does elevate the level of violence, scholarship, procedural violations, refusing to reward it with a ballot. Now, the IR reflexive stuff they do at the top and it's contingent. That can all be true, and we're not a refusal of IR altogether, but or because our links are assumptive of their reforms. Broadly, IR theory might be minimalist, but not the NEC's application of it. But their theory alone is wrong. One double consciousness, their paradigm for assessing state interactions is racist and historical perpetuating mythology of the neutral and nation state. Limited capability becomes an inherently anarchic world order. Order with an anarchy is only possible through the lens of the colonizer. For the colonized, the world order is and always will be hierarchical to displacement. Their theory includes non-linear approaches to IR. The conference and tricontinental conference established outside solidarity forefronts from recent IR. These theories become footnotes in the Euroseat for lack of rationality or rigor because they reject the pessimistic approach, which also disproves no alternative verbs for non-starters, links or ideas that each term several groups of the fractionation or argument of responsibility, not forcing applicants to their scholarship or lens is bad, makes it means they get away with identifying these critique debate far worse when the firm about why it becomes unable or new each justified tag on presumption. Different people advocate different things now. Debate is a question of what is preferable. It also never changes how their framework is really no critiques at all, which really when they say links are only to consequences of the plan, which is just a disadvantage because there will always be scalar issues with agents or framework forefronts, political proposals, advocacy, which come prior to the plan. Now, accidents link. This isn't closed. They have a nuclear ability to develop offense, given they claim they deconstruct policy relevant to nuclear antagonism. They have no offense for inclusion of accident rhetoric. It's only a risk that they reproduce the accidents with calculation of the intended outcomes of the nuclear era, framing it as an accidental consequence, particularly to epistemological scheme that solves them of the intentional advance and actions to impact one epistemic colonial silencing the people of the intentions behind nuclear weapons construction testing on increased communities of white countries, thousands of and eradicate cultures throughout the past 50 years, none of which were accidents, but intentional advance by the same policymakers they posture as two. It's only an accident because they believe they're divorced from small coordinates, go to tested nukes, which is exemplary of the same for Polly and McDermott and their link defense isn't the app. When we see chain evidence explicitly highlighted, quote, inadvertent or accidental first use, unquote. Even if they blame the impetus for the conflict on nuclear posture or leaders, they view use itself as an active or inadvertent. When you see evidence explicitly the attributes to that, and the threats can be real. That doesn't mean they're accidental. The whole refuses to recognize the absolute moral truth of accidents and doesn't justify nuclear use. Anyways, this outweighs the opposite of the U.S. teaching in Sweden said it was okay to nuke Japan because it was planned at the time to be necessary and the world or the presentation of Iraq, which needed imperfect knowledge in order to justify the murder of 850,000 never black civilians. Second slice civilian, like there are justifications for NFU or Korean civilizational discourses that don't just silent war against racialized sets conceptual template enables those rendered as the West, which is a psychological category, not just a geographical entity, political strategic objectives and purposes are informed by fears and prejudice that assume that the rest are to be responsible and irrational to be trusted with nukes has a systematic rest of their possession. That's the third yes, think one policy chains. Quote, the plan has the potential to redefine the meaning of nuclear deterrence as one driven by peace rather than by aggression and hostility, unquote. They presume most of the last 80 years is one of peace, including nuclear conflicts and structural violence understood as peace under their paradigm. When you see Sukin, quote, nuclear weapons are uniquely poor instruments of propellants. The PC defense is wrong justifications like theirs for NFUs on nuclear subject as hegemonic, which they're taboo against simply that use for the nuclear identification with reinforcing the fetishes of nukes as adherents of social value. The idea that they're qualitatively different, except the distinctiveness of their status, reinforcing an arc redemption, justifying one city's forms of militarization purpose. While Craig contradicts the case because it's saying that deterrence is failing out, and it's wrong because they consistently go to militaristic solutions that if in the hope of outpacing and becoming hegemonic, they're epistemically backwards, problematic IR theory determines the way they conclude their scenarios, or true mitigating Western colonialism, when the link is sufficient to reject their truth claims in terms of case when you see internals or perception-based when you see cross-sects. They said North Korea considered political history. When you see thesis is that North Korea fears the U.S. as a threat to their regime, like their quote history of overthrowing dictators unquote, which quote foments distrust quote her unquote her. When you see Kodama, yet they advocate quote deterring aggression will require the U.S. to show its commitment through investing in conventional capabilities unquote. Now the raps do shape reality to CF about how debates matter prove it changes how we approach nuclearism, or they can't access any of it either, even if it doesn't justify for scholarship and research and debate and research raps do shape reality because it sets the conditions for it sets the conditions for the range of possible actions that we consider taking. Now, North Korea, the U.S. habit of painting the regime as inferior and defining itself in opposition to that is an imperialist strategy since the 90s. We've constantly recycled the possibility of collapse generating desire for military presence to counter that ever-present danger and justifying military subjectivities. When you see Cho says, quote, this does not mean we assume North Korea is a status quo speaker that we endorse diplomatic recognition of North Korea, unquote, due to its, quote, deterrent posture may be what may well be used to support revisionist campaign, unquote, in the Korean Peninsula. But then when you see Booth and Wheeler say that they need to promote mutual security through cooperative mechanisms, explicitly highlighting diplomacy cross-sectional security here, they began with uncritically claiming that North Korea is motivated by fear of the U.S. first threat and contextualize the mutual security quote, as quote, understanding their side of the security dilemma. That alone turns the North Korean collapse. So when you see Cho evidence says official North Korean documents support the view that quote no quote vulnerability to capitation is powerful incentives to employ nuclear weapons early in a crisis, unquote. The conflicting views between the concession activist spouses and the desires to make the quote hermit kingdom unquote so afraid that they will launch their defense. The defense is not insensible. The act's representation is truly self-referential, relying on mere imaging their understanding of North Korea as based on epistemological coordinates that attempt to create an objective image of it based on rationality and anarchy, guaranteeing internal contradictions. Given when you see Kodama scenarios are based on quote prospect theory and psychological factors, their scenario relies on misinterpreting American signals, setting aside whether the U.S. is likely to attack. Why would North Korea not know what the U.S. is thinking? When he seems to apply, all they do is rationally interpret American signals and interpret them, which is the premise for all the arguments that removing ambiguity is successful. Now the war acorns, those lack uniqueness. The whole right-wing of apocalypse, and it's not because we conceptualize them as such, but we should to force confrontations initiated by their evidence. War should be that the status quo is not peace if we don't rhetoric, and the fact that they conceptualize it as such is what justifies it. Instead, overcorrect for white privilege, God institutes racism and primacy, and IR their own cartoons, manifestations, white silence, and their own form of cancel culture that creates a self-fulfilling illusion within academia that defeats white denial, rejecter, that put us a predisposition to existential threats. It trains us all to conflate those two because it justifies slavery, colonization, and prison industrial conflict. So that they don't capture their word framing, and instead the inverse is true. They justify continuing bloodshed to secure a white future. The alternative decenter mythos of whiteness and recenter the global south, counter political narrative, secondary water, the overture of exciting famous revision requires rejecting theirs when they generate this for us. We'll concede unconditionality makes being neg harder. That's a reason to prefer our framework because we don't allow unconditionality. It's obviously not a reason to vote against us, but they've accepted being neg, the neg being harder is a voting issue. So their implication links to our offense. No take backs, no implication for why that because it's most consistent and in-depth and reject argument on the team. All TA is not just that we don't defend our framework does not justify those things. If it's just a question why our theories, Edwards evidence, conservatism isn't justified on our framework. War crimes also have bad justification. Their evidence concedes most war crimes are committed by actors with considerable consequences and babies over-obsessed with problem solving instead of posing important questions.
Actually, we need to set up, right?
Wanted to talk about the North Korean link first. This recutting of the Cho card, you've like taken a section of it out of context where it's referencing the fact that like, you know, we just can't be absolutely certain about North Korea. Like, it's obviously contrary to like the conclusion of this article. What is the link?
What do you mean?
Like, is it just this like is this line like, you know, like thing that you think is a link?
No, you also refer to North Korea as the hermit kingdom. That's what it says.
As a hermit kingdom?
Yeah.
You're the part of the card that's like in quotes. Okay, sure. Like what does the alt do?
And then,
like
external tab, I don't think this is like out of context. It's pretty clear. They're saying that
okay,
they do not
so,
assume North Korea as a status quo state, and they do not endorse diplomatic recognition of
so
North Korea.
Arnav, the U.S. describes North Korea in all these ways now. Voting neg does what about that?
It says you should have that.
It's like
It is like this is the way that the U.S. government, our national security infrastructure, etc., describes
Okay,
North
well,
Korea.
if none of us are changing anything how the U.S. describes anything, so like neg on presumption.
So our argument is that the introduction of AC was uniqueness for us. You've defined the value of that introduction.
Yeah, you said that description is good. You didn't have to use those descriptions. The fact that the U.S. government uses those descriptions does not at all make it something that we should do.
Okay.
The U.S. government also like had slavery as legal. It doesn't mean like just.
Can you explain? What was the?
It doesn't mean it's not without impact to say slavery.
Yeah, I got you. The slide stability link. Why is a no first use policy towards North Korea an example of slide stability? I tried to miss the explanation of this. You want to see?
Yeah, I mean, one, we're critiquing the idea that nukes are unique.
Why is that not the case?
Huh?
Can you explain why is that not the case? Why are nukes not unique?
Because there's a number of other weapons that achieve same
you have a
from the perspective of the colonists, right?
Do you have a card or an example that you think makes sense?
Yeah, so
Well, yeah, literally, like if you get bombed by like a conventional weapon, and you die, you're not really
You think a conventional
considering whether or not like it wasn't a nuke. So that's like a very clear example.
You think you have a card that says North Korea uses nukes and conventional weapons as a
It doesn't have to be about North Korea. This is a
Seems
qualitative
highly
thing about nuclear weapons. And even if it's not about nuclear weapons, it still applies to North Korea. Like it applies universally, basically, because like I mean, it really doesn't matter to the victims whether or not they got killed by a nuke or they got killed by a conventional weapon. Right? That's like
the accidents link. What was the impact to it?
There's two. So
Yeah.
one is just like it epistemically silences the idea that the very reason nukes exist, the reason why we discuss nuclear deterrence, etc. The premise of why they were created was based on their capacity to do violence. The second thing is, somewhat related to that, I suppose, but how like weapons construction, testing in indigenous communities, etc. So all as an accidental consequence as a result.
take that. Alright. The critique, I'll start in the Schmidt cards and then this. Good.
No. Still have to download. Okay, I have the doc. Where did you say you were starting?
On the critique at the bottom.
Okay, and then the case. Okay. I'm good.
Is that good?
Schmidt cards are Graziano Googling what is hermeneutics. The literal title of the article just having an argument defines what it is. Schmidt is neg. If there's no event of truth, there's only different perspectives. Neg on presumption because there are no moral obligations to demonstrate. We should do the plan without tautological to analyze paradigms or scenarios within them. Our critique isn't single termination, but we certainly criticize and analyze their justification. Dare to turn is 0, 1, no link defining. Dare to hermeneutics, which is certainly not ours. 2, no circle theory is the basis for practice of policy. The also prerequisites by the nation basically negating the realities too. Avidia, if the root cause of suffering epistemological or ignorance is sustained fundamental delusion plays out their debates, demand for a hypothetical cost-benefit calculation, subject to participate in work, projecting civil society that actively refuses to confront basic facts about our social world through a racial fantasy land of fiat, debaters of epistemological reports, anti-black bias, and anguish for the purpose of sustaining collective ego, the white debate community intensifies racial alienation here and now. We carry evidence. They've only said one thing: snare playing is good. There's no intrinsic link between fiat and engaged activism about nukes, even if the model generates opinions about an controversy or heuristic that evaluates the liberal hypothetical world in which Congress would never let go of the bomb, teach us to wish away obstacles like white centrist controls and levers of powers and race republic through a durable and attitude of fiat instead of teaching us to be activists who can endure the hostile conditions and live despite them means no subtlety or internal link to spilling up to resolve the impact to this argument, but we have impact to debaters here now. Now the term, if they're right about their impact focused arguments, we outweigh the what is the importance of failures of classical physics and IR, the suggestion that we can map nation states as deterministic fragments of the globe into time units includes the realization that we're merely constituent products of a relationship, the impact, planetary survival, drop, externalizing foreign affairs as independently observable, reinforces false binary between itself and the world, reinforces dogma, states, centrist, and national economic fear, deepening environmental social chaos under the humors of individuality, assumption of rationality, being corresponding to enable ideological hijacking, provincial faith in international relations, and neutron and thinking object proves the design of solutions, making every crisis more likely to escalate and renders policy self-debating, which turns the case. They cannot say the case come first. Social scientists report the neutral focus on linear causalities as a depoliticizing move, rejecting the United States survival of a minute for nuclear warfare missions. Proposals of prior research development identified discrete structures for adverse economic causal issue. They interesting causal patterns to catch up to the global catastrophe life and focus on discrete causal connected short side causal side extension risk and air forming. On one hand, KO overshadowed the potential second convergence state distortion and directly long-term high probability mapping scenarios requires x-ray critical systems beyond neuroscience and individual scenarios addressed by single disability existential risk informing epistemological priorities no two-layer concept of risk closing solutions to health and security and close moral hazard only part of these problems. Now the no link argument's wrong. We're critiquing the security dilemma theory, Tab, Booth, and Wheeler evidence. Quote, the nuclear security dilemma provides analytical toolkit. We've impact on that. Their studies import the patient rational actor theory and then maps it onto states that everyone's operating on uncertainty and therefore it's have to maximize the low defense set of interest. There's somehow an external division of interest, especially the types of geography that states and externally expensive ignores that states are really discursive and intermediate creations of our heterogeneous actors. Now, IR theory context stuff is backwards. The use of theory can only be right if that theory is done so if that theory is right in the first place. So they must prove that their theory is correct. Well, IR cannot be used for harm reduction because it misidentifies the problem wars. Right sides of their and 20s making sense of how they bomb theories and dogs code 6 times like over positionality. This thing about the essence absence relation specific expression build Japan and Germany building they reside in different holes, some holes and kinds of characteristics understandable and makes a running correct down folded heterogeneous between process and co-occurring hollow movement. Think Israel Palestinian relations or separation systems unfolded and produces explain where appearances otherwise implicated by the relation. Now the decision theory stuff quantum physics invalidates quantum system to predict state behavior in the nation state is outdated. One observer effect. There's no way to take ourselves from systems reviewing purporting objective observation ignores that our observations themselves alter the behavior of state stations create their own existence on the pretense of being watched through superstition. It's impossible to still natural strategy to unitary state classical choice theory assumes the states have a portfolio of preferences they can choose from in a well-defined manner that ignores heterogeneous indeterminate nature of thought that requires quadruple psychoanalysis to effective map of states which impossible to read and fully 15 to work. Word for me, Tony Lock, which transcends emotion, would also stay emotion security like the first back more than empirical things outside. Scientific describes security levels, fear about offensive. They're not content. We're returning to basic physics. Earlier, friends were classical physics states, black boxes, and rational actors continue to dominate with nation states pushing to get quantum computing. There's added responsibility to address the causality of quantum power. The nation state system is unstable and inaccurate. That's by 18 in UK. Shows few signs of recovery works at Francis Hill and all to accelerate the composition political system, state rule of law, democratic market theory, not a majority of no-fascist representative roles, official opposition, composition, nation politics, not compatible. The limitations developing the way the nation states able to withstand 21st century focus the last of influence since we don't know the second and the way of international the vote national states are moral decay 20th century structure down in 21st century deregulated finances, economics, tech, military, great power. The nation systems are appeared on a valuable future of the words financially security, national tendency, even if they restore that moment's got economics information. Grow beyond the authority of the national system government, national wealth, and unconsidered any political maximum altered by the alternative use of tech as well as say tech can seem impossible. They're all given insufficient authorities and human beings that capable of great majority of moments of politics, studying, spending, including creation of nation state, real delusion of belief, and things can carry on. Western governments are desperate to prove they are still in control. They merely Trump's personality, Trump's out, they never mastery American life candidates, so you play to a bug, and that card is marked at too vacant. Lastly, the turnout evidence is not offense. Quantum theory includes some classical forms that are linked with the inclusion of security elements, so even theories can be reflexive. Kentucky's not that.
We have 9. It's my time.
to figure that out.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about it.
Third not.
Not one of these screen anchors for Apple laptops. Alright.
Give me one second.
Alright, everyone ready?
The bloc has conceded that U.S. nuclear first-use posture guarantees nuclear escalation, causes North Korean pre-delegation, and launch on warning tactics which lock in miscalculation. They should filter how you view every linked argument they have made because none of them are contextualized to this specific impact they made. Explain things like the Korean War or U.S. imperialism or something tied to aggression, but none of it explains this, and they've conceded a solvency argument that no first-use policy sufficiently allays North Korean fears and have not contextualized any of the linked arguments to this premise and conceded carved this as the plan is a request by North Korea, which means they do not have offense first arguments about IR knowledge production, conceded blind Buddhism. Specific evidence insists that none of this is a reason to vote negative. They've conceded that it is impossible to assign universal meaning to the things that the 1AC has said, nor prove that voting negative in the context of this link is generative of a future politics. They've conceded it is not unethical because the 1AC did not assign one IR theory to the world. It assigned a contextual one to one specific dyad between the US and North Korea. It said that that is good contingently, not about a broad claim of the world which means it circumvents all of their arguments about the nature of suffering, and those are not contextualized, so I do not have to answer them. And because it would be new in the 2 and R for them to explain why it applies, or return to the case, the arguments about classical physics are ridiculous because we did not claim universal monocausality for all forms of existential risk or all forms of nuclear war, which is what their cards are indicting. Rather, we claimed one specific dyad, which was largely done above the security dilemma, is relational, which impacts their argument because it recognizes states as prone to emotions and the sort of leaders of states as being the ones responsible for nuclear weapons, which also answers the accidents link on the other sheet, because it means that we are not abstracting or viewing states as sort of abstract things in the context of the security dilemma, which is what the Booth-Wheeler card is talking about. The state is generally good. They have not read unique evidence about the sort of brink they've run a card into AC argument that says that the people who just assert that the fall of the state is inevitable are not using any warrants. They just sort of laundry list a bunch of random existential risks like climate change and say that the end of the state is here, a meaningless declaration that probably is just to get them published. The quantum argument conceded a card into AC deficit that says that it is ridiculous and does not justify abandoning the 1AC's model of decision making. I don't have to answer this argument beyond this because none of this is contextualized, which would be the thesis of our arguments on the critique. Again, the filter for all of this is that none of Texas's arguments are contextual to our arguments. They may be able to grasp at straws to access something close to the plan, but a win-on framework means that none of their things have any uniqueness, and so trier-diflux extend framework. They only get links to the plan and its consequences. You should vote for the team that does the better debating over the plan because that's the only non-arbitrary role. The impact of this is fairness and outweighs because it's the foundation of all of debate. It's the reason that we all come here is mutually expected from both sides because they expect you to flow and evaluate arguments fairly and be very upset if you just voted for us because you like us more. For example, the 2NC at the top of framework was completely unflowable. I do not care what the 2NR says that I draw because I literally did not get a single argument before they finished the hallucinatory whiteness card, so I shouldn't have to answer them. And if they say that I drop any small ticky-tacky thing, the thematic arguments that I'm going to make answer them anyway, so you should not let them stand up and be like they dropped X argument. That's why we automatically win. None of their arguments apply to our fairness impact, and the internal link will be explained below because no part of debate or the role of the app or neg in any one debate is key to the future orientation of the world, which answers the hallucinatory whiteness is and all of their education offense because things like changing the cards in the 1AC, outside factors like school, religion, book clubs, etc., and things like switch side debate, the fact that you always have to research both sides means that education is not generated by either side's interpretation in a vacuum. It means that they cannot solve any of their offense. You can only solve our offense by allowing for a fair role for the affirmative. Means that education is not solved by either framework interpretation, and fairness has to come prior because we will win a larger internal link too in the DA. Their DA, the hallucinatory whiteness DA thing, also relies on that premise too because it assumes sort of one epistemology that is impossible to prove because the 1AC's epistemology was the plan. Anything else is them grafting it onto us, which is our internal link to fairness. Because it means they can do things like pull random lines from the 1AC quoting US officials and be like, this is bad because it justifies what that official said, which is the thing Jordan was getting at in cross-ex. The unconditionality thing is irrelevant when it's not being that hard or it is not intrinsic to their framework interpretation, but something separate, and a framework just proves that we win. I'm going to do some link defense really quickly. I really don't need to do much because we're winning framework pretty decisively. Like sort of education not important and cognitive bias stuff or whatever, which largely answered above, and we get new answers because it's not really applied to anything that we have said. The no refusal argument, no refusal of IR, this just sort of relies on them asserting their theory with no real meaning or basis for claiming why it is true that that is our theory. We have explained our theory clearly and they have not refuted it. They have not explained why our theory is any of the things that they are talking about, and I do not have to win a link term because I can't link term something that I don't know what the fuck the link is to, and the accidents link was answered on the case. I do not have to do this, and then again, this is just like they did this, which justifies this, impossible to prove, non-falsifiable. Do not have to answer it under a framework interpretation, slideability link, literally do not give a shit about this link either, because the US being irresponsible is our thesis to North Korea. But we did not make a statement about North Korea broadly. The plan said that we should not threaten to nuke North Korea, and that is good. They asked for the plan, which demonstrates that they can't win a terms case argument because the plan is the thing that they have said would be sufficient to allay their fears and stop retaliation, which they dropped one AC argument. It means that they do not win a terms case argument for literally any of the links. The North Korea link, I do not care about either as far as the answer above, and they didn't offer an alternative explanation, so I'm just going to do the alt now. Anyway, the alt creates bad politics. It is a terminal impact to our framework interpretation. It means that any risk of vote zag. First, they conceded vague alter a voting issue. I don't care, tech over truth. If the voting issue makes being F impossible because we can't generate 2 AC solvents deficits, drop argument, vote on it now, do not let them give it to an R, but there's no endpoint to the alternative. A or Edwards evidence says that it never requires us to explain anything, explain the endpoint. It means that politics just becomes a race to purity. It means they can just say that we justified something without providing a solution to it, which results in a dead-end description of the status quo. It makes us justify everything. It's the equivalent of 2NC Crossing saying slavery is legal and us calling them racist for doing that, which is obviously bad. B is that it is endless. This is also the internal link to fairness, because it is literally impossible to ever find one meaning. Because the next role is suspicion, and they have to be suspicious of everything, it literally means being F is impossible, because they will always be suspicious of us, and there will always be a sufficient win condition under their framework argument, which is our case of Schmidt evidence.